Welcome to the Elly Twineyo show. This is the place where we bring you ideas that matter. Every Friday, we bring you ideas on knowledge pillars of development insights, exporting basics, family businesses, and the society. As we discuss these ideas so that you understand first, you decide and move. Another important aspect that we look at, which explains why some countries are developed and others are not, why countries developed and others didn't, is the aspect of physical capital. Physical capital is so important that you overlook it at your own peril. Railway systems, the rail network, is important. When I was studying and as a young man, they told me that railways are too slow. But how would they be slow when they had their own dedicated lane? They have their railway, they have their lane. So what is very clear is that railways are safe, railways are fast in their own lane, railways are reliable, and cheaper. So countries that developed, including United States of America, a lot of money was spent on building the railway system. The railway system, they spent a lot of money. One thing I must state, that when they were building the railway system, there was a lot of corruption in the United States of America. One of the examples which shows a lot of corruption in the development of countries is the railway system in the United States of America. This is not what I'm discussing today. What I'm discussing is that the physical capital, the railway system, the railway network is important for markets. Accessing markets is important for people to move, for connectivity, for people to move from different places to different places. Is important for safe movement of your goods, and is important as a means of transport because it has a dedicated line. But also roads. Do you have enough roads, and are they good roads? Because roads are important for human beings to travel on them, but also roads are important for you to reach markets, for you to be able to access markets from the rural areas, and all countries that developed had rural areas. Even Japan had rural areas, even China had rural areas, even the Republic of Korea had rural areas, So for them to access the urban centers, the towns where they would sell some of their merchandise and where they would buy their merchandise, you need good transport, either roads, good roads, or railways. And of course, air travel is an addition, a big addition. So the argument has been that countries, and they tell you China has invested a lot in physical capital, railways and roads and power stations in different places in the country, and this has improved, enhanced their development. But let me tell you something about China. China, to reach also its export markets, has also put money in what we call Belt and Roads, has put money in building roads in its own markets. China has been building roads in Africa. China has been building roads in Asian countries. China has been building roads in South America, South and Central America, in Latin America. So that, to know that physical capital is important, because if Chinese goods are to penetrate Asian markets, or Chinese or African markets, or Latin American markets, how do they access those people? How do they access the buyers? How do they access the markets? They have even invested in those countries in roads, which is an important aspect. And I have seen some countries, even in Africa, which have had rapid development, even in Asia, which have now recently had rapid development. Indonesia, Malaysia, South Africa, in Africa, Uganda in Africa, Nigeria, and other countries, they have had to invest in the road network. Some are working also on the railway network, because it is important. To access markets, you need transport. To reach hospitals and health centers when you are sick, you need access to these facilities. So it is important. You cannot have business without physical capital, without roads, without railways. But that is not enough. There is another argument that has been put forward to discuss how countries have developed, and which we saw in the previous episode, which is technology. Technology is so important that you cannot avoid it. How will you have factories without technology? Technology, you can either develop your own technology, you can have what we call tacit technology, you can adopt technology, you can adapt technology. When we look at Japan learned a lot from United States of America, including quality management, including technology adoption and adaptation, and they used it. And Japan now, as we see, is a developed country, with one of the countries with the highest GDPs, but also with highest savings rate per individual. You find that, and they live longer, you find that your grandmother has enough money, we don't know where she will leave it, and you find that actually your mother also has enough money, we don't know where she will leave it, and you find you have also your own money. So they have a lot of money, and advise some of the countries in the world that are desirous of development, of growing, to target Japan for foreign direct investments. Foreign direct investments, to bring them and invest in your countries, but also convince them to come and visit your countries. Too much they visit America, especially Hawaii, because it is near them, but all parts of the world you can invite them. So technology is important. That United States of America developed because of technology, and at one time they had been advised by their cousins in experts in Great Britain, in United Kingdom especially, including Adam Smith. Adam Smith is well known globally as the father of economics. He had advised America not to invest in industry and factories. They didn't listen to him. They invested, now they are developed. But we know that United Kingdom, Great Britain, which is an island, a small island, a small country, became the empire, became the leader of the whole world because of technology. From agricultural revolution to industrial revolution. Britain never looked back. Technology helped it a lot. They conquered the whole world. They dominated the world. They used the world as their market. America was their market. Africa was their market. Asia was their market, and other parts of the world. And they became successful, and they have never looked back. So what happened? Technology. During the Industrial Revolution, a lot of machines were invented, were developed, which eased work, which made production faster, which made production of more units per hour or per worker, and that helped that country to develop. Every time you hear everyone talking about the development of countries, they will never forget the Industrial Revolution, and it started in Great Britain. Technology was important. But I told you in the introduction in the previous episode that because of technology also, Great Britain, United Kingdom, England, Spain, and even now currently poor Portugal, they were able to discover the world and conquer the world because of technology. They could move on water, and also they had a gun and gunpowder. So they reached these places and they conquered them. They subjugated them. And sometimes they took away their minerals, like a lot of minerals from Latin America, gold and silver, ended in Portugal and Spain mainly, and Europe, and enriched Europe instead of Latin Americans because of technology. So technology has been so important that even the gun, the discovery of a gun, away from the spears and bows and arrows, was so important for these countries to dominate the world. For example, the Spaniards or the Spanish, they conquered the kingdoms in Central and South America of different groups, including the Aztecs, and because they had a better fighting weapon, a gun, with a group of only 600 people, which included the soldiers, the porters, the cleaners, everybody. Very small group. They conquered a big kingdom with millions of people in Mexico, in Central North America. And they conquered it. How were they able to do it? Because they had the gun, and the other guys were using stones, they are using bows, they are using arrows, I think they are using spears and noise. So technology is so important. And if we should recap in this section, is one, technology is important, human capital development is important, physical capital is important, and also initial conditions are very important. In the next episodes, we will see the other factors and we will discuss them. Ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to watch this show every Friday, because then we can discuss, then we can interface, then we can exchange ideas on issues that matter to you and me.